Okay, could you explain a little bit about how you gained your testimony and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I grew up in a family that was very Christ-centered, and Christians and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we were very much part of the community, and it was a big part of our lives. And in my early teenage years, I started to have a desire to know the truth of it, know what was true and what wasn't, and at some point I stopped looking critically, using critical thinking skills, and started being more cynical as I was looking for that truth, and I began to fall away from God in those times. I felt like if it were true, if God really did exist, and if He cared about us, that I would be able to understand those spiritual truths through some other means than being so close to it, that I would be able to understand it with my logical mind. And eventually I grew further and further from God, and I was in this really dark period in my life where I kind of lost the excitement for life, and I felt like I didn't know what the point of continuing to go on. I didn't know what the point was, and I began to grow so desperate that I felt like I would try anything at that point to just feel something again, right? And I felt this pull to the scriptures. And as I read, it was something I could do, and nobody would know if I did or didn't do it. And as I read, I felt the Holy Spirit come into my life. I felt the truth that God loved me and that God had a plan for me. And in that moment of darkness, that little light, that little feeling of the Spirit felt so powerful and like home to me. And I knew at that point that I needed to go full in and try everything that I could to learn if Jesus Christ was my Redeemer, if this Christianity, if this religion was what I needed to commit myself to, right? And so I did. I began to change my life so that everything that I could change was in line with the commandments, with how I knew I should be living. And eventually, as I expressed more faith, as I repented daily and read those scriptures and tried really hard to have the spirit of the influence of the Spirit in my life, I found it, and that light began to come back into my life, and I felt the reason for living again. I felt that God had a plan for me, that that Jesus Christ was my Redeemer, and that we could all be forgiven. And eventually, I really wanted to share this light with other people. I wanted other people to know that darkness wasn't all there was, that there was this whole life of light that could come to us as we drew closer to heaven through the power of Jesus Christ. And I guess that's where I'm at today, trying to share that light and continue to draw closer, and continuing to ask questions and learn more as I grow closer to God.
When it comes to art, how does the Holy Spirit guide you in your art?
As I'm coming into my studio each day, getting ready to paint, I always start with a prayer. I start by kneeling down and praying that I'll be able to create something that is pleasing unto God, and that will show the light that I've been so fortunate to gain. And so I feel like as I'm closer to the Spirit, I'm able to make better paintings. And as I'm making these paintings, as I'm pondering over the principles and the ideas and the feelings of being a disciple, I'm able to become a better disciple. I'm able to become closer to God.
Going off that, how is artwork a form of worship for you?
Well, honestly, I'm not so great at the other more conventional forms of worship. I'm not the best speaker or the best singer, or those sorts of things. But I do know that I can share my testimony through my paintings. I have time to think about each piece and come to understand the principles within them. When I'm feeling something strongly, when I'm feeling when I'm trying to understand a principle or looking to understand it, I also am able to make paintings off of those feelings, and it it's a good place to come to understand things better, as well as it's a good place to start that discussion with other disciples.
Kind of answered this just now, but how do you want your artwork to impact the whole world?
Honestly, most of the time, the paintings that I do for myself. So that as I'm painting, as I'm making these things, it's so that I can understand better, so that I can express my own testimony and kind of get my thoughts gathered onto a page. But something that happens from that is that other people connect with that, and that has been quite an experience. It's been so nice to hear from other people, hearing that they feel that same spirit that I've felt as I'm learning and growing. So I guess I'd like to share the light of Jesus Christ. I'd like to share that there is hope, and that Jesus Christ is our Redeemer, and that we can become better through his power, and I hope my artwork can show that.
So, shifting gears, what's one supernatural encounter you've had with God? It can be art related or not.
Well, one that is easy to point to, that's kind of more physical, would be one time I was driving down the road. I was going past this big intersection, and I felt the Spirit tell me that I needed to be ready to brake in the intersection, to stop in the intersection, really. So as I was going and coming up to it, I didn't see anything, and I thought, well, maybe I'm just being a little bit paranoid, right? And I'm about halfway through when I see this car come out of nowhere. I guess he didn't see me. He was coming left. I had the green, and I know that if I hadn't have had my foot on that brake and been ready to stop, that we probably could have both been pretty hurt. So that's an easy one to point to, but one that's even more vibrant and important to me was when I was finishing college. I didn't feel like I really belonged, and I didn't feel like I was making work that fit into the kind of schools of thought within the university that I went to. And I was wondering if I should maybe change with what I had hoped to do, because I really believe that you can do God's work within any field, right? And so I was wondering if maybe switching to something else would be better. And on a specific night, as I was pouring out my heart to God, I felt so strongly that that God had a plan for me, and that this was a good path that I was taking, and that felt like such a strong experience to me, that God was aware of me and my little paintings, and that it was something that was pleasing to him. So
what advice would you give? Maybe what's the most important advice that you'd give to a new artist who is making art for the Lord?
Well, I'm kind of a new artist myself, so I'm not sure if I'm quite qualified, but I think I do know that the most important thing is to do whatever you can to invite the Spirit into your life. That as you have that in your life, that you'll continue to go down the right path and be guided by Him, and that your work will become better too, honestly. And in addition to that, if your craft is art, then I would also say, put as much mileage behind that brush as you can. Spend as much time as you can making art, and it doesn't matter if it's bad right now. It'll get better by the sheer fact of spending that time devoting yourself to your craft, and as well and to God as well.
Well, Jenna, thank you so much for sitting down and talking through these questions. Just before you go, what's the best way that people can find your artwork?
I primarily use Instagram. My username is jconlin, CONLIN art, and my website is jennaconlinartwork.com, and that's where I am on the internet. So, thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you so much.